All right, well, I'd
Afternoon.
like to welcome everyone here. I'd like to call this meeting to order with starting with the acknowledgement that the Northern Rockies Admin Center is located in the heart of the traditional territory of the Dene, Cree, and Danisaw people of Fort Nelson and Prophet River First Nations. We further recognize the rights provided by our treaty. Finally, we celebrate the contributions and the enduring presence of the Métis people in our region. Please be advised that today's meeting is available for the public to attend virtually, is being streamed and recorded. And with permission, we will go forward as a informal sort of meeting. Don't have quorum yet at this point. Does that work for you guys?
Yeah.
Okay, away we go. Business arising, I will read the proclamation that I have here, even it's my pleasure, and experience tells me this is a wonderful recognition for the National Drowning Prevention Week of July 21st and 27th, 2024. Whereas the mission of Life Saving Society of Canada is to prevent drowning throughout this great country, and even one drowning in the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality is one too many. And whereas most drownings are preventable in a water smart community, and only through water smart education and a healthy respect for the potential danger that any body of water may present, can we genuinely enjoy the beauty and recreation opportunities offered by these bodies of water. And whereas the Life Saving Society urges Canadians and residents of Fort Nelson and the Northern Rockies to supervise children who are in and around the water, to refrain from drinking alcoholic beverages while participating in aquatic activities, and to always wear a life jacket when boating. And whereas the United Nations General Assembly passed the UN Resolution on Drowning Prevention A/75/L76 and named July 25th of each year as World Drowning Prevention Day. And whereas Life Saving Society Canada has declared July 21st to 27th, 2024 National Drowning Prevention Week to focus on the drowning problem and the hundreds of lives that could be saved each year, I, Acting Mayor Danny Soules, do hereby proclaim July 21st to 27th, 2024 National Drowning Prevention Week in the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality, and do commend its thoughtful recognition to all citizens of our community. Fabulous. Petitions, delegations. Colton, you have the floor and you're welcome to talk to us.
Great, thank you very much. I'll just get my screen sharing going. Are you able to see the starting slide?
Yes.
Okay, great. This presentation is about the feedback that has been gathered in the first phase of engagement of the official community plan update, and what it means for shaping the new official community plan for the Fort Nelson area. The purpose of the phase 1 engagement was to present key facts and figures and issues to residents and gather their reactions and advice. The advice and feedback will be used to shape and inform the draft official community plan. So just to overview the presentation, we'll talk about the purpose of the engagement, some of our key findings, and what it means in terms of the new OCP, next steps, and then happy to take questions if there are any. I just want to make sure I'm sharing the right screen. Are you still seeing the slide that says today's presentation?
Yeah. Yes, we are.
Okay. Okay, great. So our engagement took place from March 12th to April 2nd, providing 3 weeks for input. The project advisory committee and staff's dedication to the project were a really big help in making sure that we attained high levels of engagement. Over 300 people participated, representing about 12% of the population of the Fort Nelson area. This is actually quite good compared to typical levels of engagement in towns of similar size on similar kinds of projects. So I really just want to thank the Project Advisory Committee for some of their suggestions around what we can do to engage people and for spreading the word far and wide. Between McElhaney and the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality staff, we held 6 in-person engagement events. These were at the Fort Nelson Secondary School, the Recreation Center, 3 different times, and also at the Farmers Market and the library. There was also self-directed engagement, which took place using online surveys, our interactive online map, and the kitchen table workbooks and the teachers' toolkits for school-aged children. The details of our engagement event schedule are shown on the slide on screen now. All sessions included 10 display boards introducing the project purpose and questions on topics ranging from the overall vision and key issues for the official community plan to address, as well as questions on housing and environmental issues. The online survey was conducted through SurveyMonkey and asked participants similar questions to those that took place at the in-person events, as well as some general demographic questions. The in-person engagement included 18 hours of staffed events for directly engaging with residents in person. Events at the rec center were well attended with 129 people engaged at the first open house, the seniors track social, and the pancake breakfast. The student engagement at Fort Nelson Secondary School took place inside the Geography 10, 11, and 12 class. And we spent just about an hour and a half with students getting really detailed feedback. This was a successful event because of the additional time students spent providing feedback and that we spent interacting with them, making sure that they understood the questions and or getting into those further details of their conversation. The online survey, we received 77 completions. We received 11 kitchen table workbooks and 48 teachers' toolkits were submitted back to the project team. The purpose of the engagement was to really gather feedback on the 8 topics listed on the slide here and to contribute to the vision of the official community plan, as well as gather any other feedback that residents felt we should know and consider. So we dug into housing, jobs in the economy, agriculture and food, recreation and parks, getting around Fort Nelson, social and cultural needs, the environment and climate resilience, and mapping all of the places that the community loved, their favorite places, and places that they felt needed some additional attention or were held in high regard as special environmentally sensitive areas. So we asked participants to help shape the vision for the OCP, official community plan, by asking them to select their top 3 choices from a list of 9 possible vision statements. There was a tie for the most popular vision statements, with 53 people choosing a diverse and close-knit community with a mix of jobs, recreation, and tourism opportunities, and another 53 choosing Fort Nelson provides a full range of services for local residents and travelers in northern BC. A close runner-up found 49 people choosing Fort Nelson is a self-reliant community with everything we need. When we think about what this means, we feel that it tells us residents understand the limitations of the remoteness of Fort Nelson and the value of having a community that gives you most of everything you need to lead a safe and fulfilling life right in town. So that leads us to the vision of the official community plan. The current official community plan, drafted back in 2011 through 2013, focused on being a complete community. And that was long before this was a popular planning concept. So Fort Nelson was already onto this and what it meant to Fort Nelson. And so the findings and the feedback just highlights that this concept continues to be highly relevant to life in Fort Nelson. And we see very strong support for a vision that continues to be anchored around this concept. Feedback also highlighted key areas of concern related to health, access to health, mobility in and out of and around Fort Nelson, the natural environment, and of course, jobs in the economy. Delving deeper into the issues, the engagement found that the top 5 issues in Fort Nelson are improved access to healthcare, attracting and retaining jobs and investment, improving the ability to get to and from Fort Nelson and moving around the town site. Runner-up issues were climate resilience and preparedness for emergencies, and safe and reliable municipal services and infrastructure. And this feedback will be used to establish key principles and objectives in the draft official community plan. When asked about housing, the feedback was centered on more variation in housing options, continued support for the housing that you have in the community, and improving housing options that are already available in Fort Nelson. That being reinvestment in existing homes and apartments, townhomes, and single detached homes. When asked about the jobs and economy, the feedback centered on attracting jobs and industry, special events for both locals and visitors, higher education, and orienting this to healthcare. That is orienting higher education to training in the healthcare profession and supporting fields. There was also strong support for revitalizing and developing underused and vacant areas, towns, and sites for local businesses, as well as more tourist-oriented services and features in town, and more food and beverage options. When we asked about agriculture and food, the feedback was centered on more local year-round food production, strong continued support for the farmers market, economic development support for the local agriculture and food producing businesses, and provision of more farming equipment and local lending options for farming and gardening implements. When asked about recreation and parks, the feedback was centered on more biking and walking path connections and winter recreation activities, adding walking and biking connections in town and improved maintenance of some of the ones that exist already, as well as more green spaces and trail connections in town, and a dog park in town, and trail upgrades around Parker Lake. When asked about getting around Fort Nelson, the feedback was centered on an active transportation network that goes back to the previous slide and the comments on parks and trail connections, ride hailing options such as a taxi or ride sharing being available in town, bike lanes and or paths parallel to the Alaska Highway, connecting key destinations in town to the trail network, increased bus connections to town in terms of the frequency of the BC bus, and reducing barriers to movement in the wintertime. When asked about social and cultural needs, the feedback was centered on cultural celebration and representation of Fort Nelson through a variety of initiatives and events, continued investment in preservation of treasured cultural and historic landmarks such as the Old Fort, and improved access to healthcare and medical services, and buildings around town being more accessible to those with mobility challenges. So when we asked about the environment and climate resilience, the feedback was centered on more local food production, improved waste diversification and recycling, and improved active transportation. The engagement input that we gathered, as I said, will inform the drafting of the official community plan in the following ways. We want to continue to hold up being a complete community as the center of the vision for Fort Nelson going forward. Key objectives and principles will orient to the top 5 issues of improved access to healthcare, attracting and retaining jobs and investment, improving the ability to get to and from Fort Nelson and moving around the town, climate resilience and preparedness for emergencies, and safe and reliable municipal services and infrastructure. Some of the other peripheral areas of focus will be the allowance for more variety in housing forms, reducing the complexity in commercial land use designations, and focusing on quality and filling up the center of town, refreshing the list of implementation actions to reflect current needs, and address fire smart and bear smart issues in policy and planning. Continuing from the previous slide, we also heard that the OCP should address policy direction and actions to better connect the town site destinations by active modes, exploring policies and actions that can support reinvestment in housing, and a sharp and deliberate focus on tourism and local entrepreneurship in all forms. And there's another item on the agenda about complete communities, and that grant will enable further work to zero in on some of the more specific needs of Fort Nelson and what it means to be a complete community. And that can also further inform the draft official community plan and the list of implementation actions that get connected to the official community plan. The next steps in the project are to complete the draft official community plan document. A preliminary draft has been shared with the administration. And after receiving comments from administration, McElhaney will complete a round of revisions to that and share it with the project advisory committee, then present it to city council, make further updates and refinements to that, and then bring it out for public review and feedback at an engagement during an engagement campaign in the fall. And that concludes my presentation, and I'm available to take questions if you have any. Thank you.
Given that we're in a very informal state, open for questions from anyone in the room. Yeah, it's fine. Isn't that cool that we were a complete community before it was a catchphrase? Imagine that.
We're
So,
always ahead of the game.
well, actually, I do have a question regarding the complete community. I like it that we aspire to identify what those terms mean in the context of an official community plan. And I'm glad that we had that kind of as a core communication or framework in 2011, or was it 2012? Sorry. But regardless, I think of how are we more complete than we were in 2011 at the doing of the last OCP, or are we less complete? It's very interesting that I don't think that that's a measurable, really a very measurable question or answer to that question. But it's good to see the continuity in what we believe is good for us overall. And I think that legitimizes the efforts put into all things like healthcare and housing and snow plowing and all the different services that we do supply. And it's almost a little wee bit like a wish list of what we would like to see, but taking steps out of this. I'm really interested in the steps that we can take going forward to bring this about.
Yes, I would just add to when you began speaking and you asked if we were less complete or more complete. I think that in terms of transportation options, we are by far less complete. We have less airline service. We have no taxi service at all, and definitely no bus service. Well, limited bus service. So yeah, and we won't even start with the healthcare thing.
Yeah, and less.
I guess I just wanted to add too, and I guess we'll get into the complete community kind of concept, but so much of, from my perspective, so much of being a complete community is out of our control. And I think that we need to, like transportation and healthcare and all of those. So when we are delving deeper into that part of the project, I think we really need to keep in mind that we know that we need this. We know that we have no ability to provide that service ourselves, but what can we do to advocate for these items that we identify? So.
Any
And
other?
I was going to
Go
just
ahead.
respond or provide some information to the council. There's a comment there. Yeah, for sure. The next presentation gives you a little bit more feedback on what you can do to advocate for that. I mean, rightly noted that many of the needs of the community kind of fall into the responsibility of the province. And so we hope that by having completed this complete communities assessment, you will have, I guess, demonstrated that you've done the work to hear from your community and analyze what you've got, and you will identify what you need. And we do strongly hope that this complete communities assessment will give you the platform to call for those changes that you want to see.
Yes, that's perfect. So would you like to move ahead into the next presentation, the complete CCNS presentation?
Sure. Yeah, I can get going into that. Just move ahead. Okay, so moving into the presentation that officially kicks off the complete community needs strategy for Fort Nelson. Got a few slides on that. Today we'll just cover what is a complete community and what is the complete community needs strategy. Just giving you a bit of that project overview, and then talk a little bit about how we can align the complete community needs strategy with the official community plan update and get some project efficiencies out of that, as well as being mindful not to over engage with the public, especially in the context of the post-wildfire situation. Also talk about some strategic priorities and then just the next steps as we move forward. And then we'd love to hear from you again, an opportunity for you to inform the project and tell us about things that you think we should be paying attention to. So the question of what is a complete community is informed by the Union of British Columbia Municipalities, or UBCM, and the grant program that they administer. They've defined complete communities as areas within a community or an entire community that provides a diversity of housing to meet identified needs, accommodate people at all stages of their life, and provide a wider range of employment opportunities, amenities, and services in a 15 to 20-minute walk. That context might not fit Fort Nelson quite as well as some other communities that this grant is being used to analyze other communities. And that's part of the engagement process, is we want to get some feedback that's actually more customized and tailored to Fort Nelson and its unique needs. So in terms of what is a complete community needs strategy, again, they've defined the strategy as being technical studies of a municipality's status in terms of, is it complete when looked at through 4 lenses that analyze housing, access to daily needs, such as groceries, multitude of municipal and provincial services, transportation, and we've heard about that already today, as well as infrastructure. So we will be taking a look at all 4 of those lenses through this project. In terms of the overview, the grant, as you know, was allocated and awarded by UBCM to the project, and we'll be using the guide and its methodology to inform the full analysis of the complete communities needs study. But I do want to mention again that it allows for customization to reflect the unique needs of a community, and so it's by no means set in stone in terms of that methodology, and we will be definitely paying attention to what might need to take place a little bit differently to reflect the unique nature of Fort Nelson. In terms of project overview, the program guide has 3 phases, and they're kind of shown in the teal, dark blue, and then the fuchsia color. So the first phase is to prepare, and that involves understanding a community's goals. So that's why we're starting out with an engagement approach that allows us to ask questions and get feedback. In that phase, we then define further scope of work and gather and prepare data. And then in the second phase of the project, which is assess, it's mostly a technical exercise where we're identifying what the data told us. We're mapping out where different community features are located, how many of them are there, and then we're sort of identifying what are the gaps, what's missing in terms of being a complete community, and then we'll identify some particular actions or test scenarios that could take place to close those gaps. And then in the act phase of the project, we develop an implementation plan that actually lists a lot of the actions that would need to be taken to solve that question about completeness. And then that implementation plan can be monitored and reported on. You can use it to inform your capital grants, grant applications, your budget allocations, and you can use it as an advocacy tool to close some of those gaps as well. So in terms of project overview, we're going to be doing a lot of geospatial data analysis and collection. We're going to have community engagement. We're going to be modeling what some of the outcomes could look like, testing those actions, and compiling our findings into a findings report, and then building an implementation plan. And we'll be presenting those reports and plans to regional council and the participants in the project. So one of the biggest opportunities we identified is that with the timing of this study, there's a fantastic opportunity to align the complete community needs strategy with the official community plan update. And so the CCNS relates to the ongoing community plan update, specifically to the issues of healthcare, housing, transportation, and community safety. And parallel to the complete community needs assessment, we'll be preparing an updated housing needs report. And that will be also reflective of recent housing legislation. And the province just released the updated methodology for completing housing needs reports only about a week and a half ago. We now have careful methodology developed by the province that our team will be following as we make the update to the housing needs report. So aligning the complete community needs strategy with the OCP update, as well as the housing needs report. Those are three key interrelationships that we're totally aware of. And because of this, we want to find a way to ensure that these projects are offering benefits to each other. And so this diagram is just meant to illustrate the way that these projects kind of touch on each other and the way they can reinforce and enrich each other. So some of the findings from the complete community needs strategy could inform the implementation plan and the policies of the official community plan. In addition to informing the official community plan, there might be findings from our work that inform the housing needs report. And there will also likely be findings from the complete community study that don't fit well in the OCP or the housing needs report. Therefore, they will stay in the complete community implementation plan. And there also might be findings out of this work that inform other Northern Rockies regional municipal plans and initiatives. And the CCNS implementation plan can provide further guidance, as I said, as an advocacy tool and as a guide for grant funding applications. In terms of aligning with the official community plan update, the initial phase of our study will occur alongside the second phase of public engagement on the official community plan, and it will feature engagement materials intended to uncover the unique priorities of Fort Nelson. We plan to do that through small focused group discussions, the use of an online survey tool, and public feedback at the engagement events for the official community plan. As I've said, we want to make sure that we're efficient with both projects, and we also want to be respectful of people's time when they engage on these projects. And so we want to do that engagement simultaneously on both projects. And so we'll be looking at gathering feedback that informs future policy and decision-making processes in Fort Nelson around the need and supply and location of housing, the presence and availability of services to meet daily and social needs, and what transportation options need further action, and what infrastructure investment and servicing decisions could be informed by the study. In terms of the project timeline, as I mentioned previously, there's sort of three distinct phases included in the province's guidebook. And phase one will unfold this summer and fall and includes really the project initiation, all of our background review, the scope and work plan review, and then the data collection. And then we have already done a lot of that. We've already also completed a communications and engagement plan, and we're engaging council today, and we'll be further engaging with the public in the weeks and months ahead. Then we'll prepare an engagement summary and share that with yourselves, as well as obviously administration. And then in our second phase, that'll follow in late fall and winter of this year. It includes selecting all of the benchmarks for further study, It identifies focus areas and a gap analysis. And then we do some action testing and selection. And then an alternate futures report is prepared. And that will really explain, like, if we did, you know, additional investment in transportation, what are the outcomes? What are the benefits of that? And so the alternate futures report will look at some of those. And then we will again engage with staff, council, and the community just to provide mainly reporting back on what we've found. And then in the third phase, we'll continue the project in the spring of next year with implementation workshop with staff, council, and community organizations, and prepare a workshop findings memo. And then that will move us into preparing an implementation plan and then a sort of a final project report. And we will also finish updating the housing needs report and then come back to council with a full suite of our work. In terms of next steps, just recognizing the extenuating circumstances stemming from the ongoing wildfire situation, UBCM has provided a 1-year time extension to the grant for this work. We're certainly very pleased with that. And the next steps for the project are our GIS team is currently analyzing all the data received from the region. And we've prepared, as I mentioned, the engagement plan and some interview guides for upcoming engagement. And we're collaborating with staff on an engagement approach that weaves together the engagement events for the official community plan with the Complete Communities project so that we gain those project efficiencies and respect the time that the public has available to offer to this project and the official community plan. Just want to make sure that we're mindful not to over-engage or for people to confuse the projects. And the aligned engagement is planned to unfold this fall. So our final slide is just an opportunity to hear from council what it means for Fort Nelson to be a complete community. I'm all ears.
Who will be first?
Well, good.
Go ahead.
Okay, well, I wrote down some words while you were talking, so I mean, I'm sure that we just want to talk high level here, right? Because we could get down into the weeds,
Oh,
but
yeah.
that's probably not where we want to go. But for me, I think opportunities, experiences, services that allow residents to live a fulsome life in the community. So when you think about in terms of education, so with, or, you know, depending on what's going to happen this winter, fall, will the school population continue to decrease? And if that is the case, then what can we do to ensure that the school district has the opportunity to continue quality educational offerings? Because they're based on, their funding is based on the number of students. Yeah, so again, none of these are within our control, but what can we do? Health, well, we won't, I'm not even going to touch that one. Safety though, like has been previously mentioned, you know, like we know we are facing certain policing challenges. And continuing with the safety, it's the wildfire risks and opportunities. And et cetera. So that's kind of where I was going with safety. And then something that I think is really important, although it's lower down on the list, is beautification. I believe that most people want to live in a beautiful environment, and we are surrounded by a beautiful environment. And I think it could be said that within the town limits, we have a little bit of work to do on that. So that's where I would start.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Councilman.
For me, I think one of the most important things would be to diversify and enhance our economy and raise our population. And I think a lot of the services and the things that we want and need will fall in place when you have a demand for those services and you have a need for those needs. So for me, it would be, I mean, traditionally we've had oil and gas and forestry, and right now we don't seem to have very much of either of those, but it's always been those two pillars. If one went down, it was a significant burden on the community. And what I would like to see are smaller industries that pop up that can withstand, you know, the sort of worldwide pressures that come with, having a resource-based industry. So that if one of those industries does go down, then there's other industries to sort of, cushion the blow, and where people can, if you lose the job here, you can get another job, the next week somewhere else. So I think economy and diversifying the economy would be one of the biggest priorities for me.
I echo my fellow counselors in this. The chickens and eggs that you've just brought up are quite obvious. Very important that we have an economy in order to have a community. And I think that is a focus as a council, opening the doors or ensuring that we actually show that we are open for business from my industry point of view is a very crucial point right now. I also very cognitive of the safety issues regarding the forest and the volatility of our forest right now. I think quite a few of us will be sitting on pins and needles for the next about 6 or 7 weeks because of the season that it is. And very thankful that last week's massive lightning storm didn't happen right here. It happened just a ways away, and very thankful for that. But it's actually a very good time for this type of discussion. I think that just something that came out of this last presentation that I see, that is that the province with its expectations for having knowledge into our housing needs, like they expect us to know exactly to do a housing study and research on that. And so at least they've come to the table with a funding mechanism and bringing people to the table like McElhaney, thank you kindly, that will be able to do this work on our behalf in our community, even as it's required of us. I think those things fit together well. So I think that I appreciate the presentation there. I'm definitely open for comments from any of the staff that are in the room.
Thank you.
Yes.
Also, thank you, Colton, for being here and for both of your presentations. I did just want to point out quickly that the housing needs report isn't actually funded by this grant, whereas it was last time. So that is separate from this consultation, but we are super appreciative for McElhaney's work, UBCM, and the complete community needs strategy. And McElhaney will be doing the housing needs report, but the funding will be separate. But
I'm
yeah.
glad that they are doing that report as well. Whether funding aside, I'm glad that it actually fits well with this form of research that we're doing.
Mhm.
Yes. Anyone else? Colton, we'd like to thank you for being here.
Thanks very
Thank
much.
you.
The pleasure is
Thank you.
also mine, and we've taken notes, and we're looking forward to moving forward with both of these projects.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to just reports, bylaws, and policy. We have the updates that we've just looked at and the complete communities kickoff, and it's all complete. So I guess we're ready for a informal adjournment. Is that right? I see by consensus. Are you ready to adjourn, counselors? There we go. Look at that. Then let's consider ourselves having adjourned. Thank you, everyone.